Have you ever noticed how some people never feel like they're doing enough? They always worry that they're about to get into trouble, even though they really do their best and they're very conscientious at work. There's always that sneaking suspicion that somebody's criticizing them somewhere, or their boss is about to tell them that they're not doing enough and they're going to lose their job. That may actually be you, or it may be someone on your team. In times of crisis, that's very helpful. The survival brain is a good thing. I don't share some people's opinion that we need to overcome or set aside any aspects of ourselves. Instead, we need to manage them so that the survival brain can serve us when we're actually at risk. And the rest of our brain, the emotional mind, the rational mind, can serve us the rest of the time, which is 99.9% of the time. How do you do that? That's what this episode is about. Welcome to Drama-Free Teams, the show for leaders who care deeply and want their teams to thrive without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Annie Campanile. Let's shift how you lead so you can stop dreading conflict and start driving results. How do you experience that in your body when you get that little voice in your head that says, well, yeah, they said this is okay, but they just don't know. I could have done much more. I should have. The shoulds come in. I had a coaching session with a senior leader who, let's call Pamela, who had recently completed a 2-year-long project that had required her to be very well organized, have lots of political savvy, and get many, many people from different departments aligned. This was a large project that had a really big impact on her organization. And she was receiving all kinds of accolades from her boss, from her boss's boss, from her peers, recognizing the role that she played in making this project come to fruition. So it was interesting because in our coaching session, I noticed that her energy was kind of low and her eyes were kind of dull. They weren't shiny with accomplishment. I asked her, how does it feel to you now that you've come to this point and it is complete? And she looked at me and she's like, well, I'm glad it's over. But to be honest, I just keep having this nagging feeling that I didn't do enough. She was surrounded by people who were appreciating her and deflecting it because she didn't believe she deserved it. She said that she really wanted to finally move past this habit of seeing herself as not enough. She didn't want to feel that heavy weight on her shoulders when everybody else was telling her, hey, you've done a great job. So I walked her through a simple exercise, which I'll share with you now. First, I guided her to put both feet on the floor, take a breath, and just feel her feet on the floor. This is an interesting exercise because it's such a simple act, but when we are distracted by survival thinking of I'm not enough or I'm not doing enough, we lose connection with our body. So just by feeling your feet on the floor, pressing your feet into the floor, wiggling your toes, it's a very gentle way of calming that survival brain down and bringing your mind to the present moment. Once she had done that, I had her take out a piece of paper. So if you're able to do this now, grab a piece of paper and do this along with us. On the left side of the paper, I had her write what she currently was telling herself, which was, it's never enough. I'm never doing enough. Then I had her draw a vertical line to separate the page in two. Then on the right side, I asked her, what would you rather believe? This might seem like a simple question, and it is. If you can let yourself trust the first thing that comes to your mind. If you don't want to believe that you're never doing enough, what would you rather believe? You don't have to believe it right now, but what would feel better? So she paused, she took a breath, and she said, I'd rather believe that it is enough. I am doing enough. So I encouraged her to write on the right side of her page, I am doing enough. So if you're following along and you've got on your left side of your page the belief that you currently carry that doesn't feel so good, and on the right side of the page, a belief that would feel better. So here's what's wonderful. Beliefs are just thoughts that we've practiced. They feel true because our body responds to everything we think, we say as if it's true. And then that makes the brain think, oh, this is true. And so then it repeats it to itself over and over. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. You can take a breath. You can choose a different thought to practice. When we have a really strongly held belief that is painful, such as I'm not doing enough, It's really difficult for the brain to accept a new thought that's completely the opposite, such as, I am doing enough. So here's what I recommended to Pamela and what I recommend to you. And that is to say to yourself, I choose to believe. You're telling your brain, I choose to believe that it might be possible that I'm doing enough. Can you feel how much gentler that is? It's so much easier to coach our brain into a different thought when we allow that introduction of, I choose to believe this. It might be possible. I don't know. I'm just choosing to believe that it might be possible that I am doing enough. Oh, that's so much more gentler. What? That's so much gentler. And Pamela felt that as well. She said, I think I can practice this. I choose to believe that it might be possible that I am doing enough. And then I encouraged her to pause and just notice how her body responded. How did it feel to say that? She said, I felt chills go down my body, and I noticed some tears coming to her eyes. And I encourage her to just breathe into it, feel those tears, because the body releases energy in lots of ways. Tears is a very common way that the body releases excess energy. So I encouraged Pamela to practice her new thought every day for 7 days and just see what happened, see how it felt to her. So for 7 days, I encourage you to do the same thing. Practice saying to yourself, I choose to believe that it might be possible, and then whatever your statement is. For Pamela, it was, I choose to believe that it might be possible that I am doing enough. 7 days later, Pamela and I checked in, and wow, the difference in her cheeks alone was so amazing. She went from looking exhausted and no color in her cheeks to having bright eyes, and her cheeks were rosy. She looked hopeful, and she told me that she felt so much better. And of course, her old belief was not conquered forever. The key is, how will you remind yourself to practice this new thought? Because our mind is elastic. It's kind of like if you stretch out a rubber band, it goes right back to how it was before when you let go. The same thing is true of our thoughts. If you're used to telling yourself a painful thought like, I'm not doing enough, and if you've practiced that for decades, it's important to practice your new thought. Not constantly, but maybe once a day. Practice that new thought. It eventually will become a subconscious belief, and you will reap all kinds of benefits. And I promise you're not going to become an underperformer just because you've given yourself the gift of receiving appreciation and trusting the people around you who are telling you, hey, it's enough. What you're doing is great. And then it's a lot easier to give recognition to other people in a way that they feel is sincere and appreciate, and takes actually a lot less energy from you. So if you'd like relief from that internal drama of hearing people tell you they love you, they appreciate you, thank you, but yet telling yourself you're not doing enough or you're not enough, try this exercise. Grab a piece of paper, on the left-hand side, write that painful belief that you keep telling yourself. Draw a line down the middle, and then on the right-hand side of the paper, write what you would rather believe. I've done this for myself with lots of different beliefs over the years. One of the most profound moments was when I was in my PhD program and I was taking the maximum load of credits, 18 credit hours at a doctorate level. Really didn't know what I was getting into there. And my husband at the time was just diagnosed with cancer. I had just lost my job and didn't really know what was going to happen with my life. And yet, I refused to ask for help. I had this belief that I had to do everything myself. It was all up to me. That was one of the beliefs that I identified. So I did this exercise and I wrote down, it's all up to me, on my left-hand side of the page. And then I asked myself, well, what would I rather believe? If I don't want to believe it's all up to me, if anything was possible, what would I rather believe? What I wrote was, it's okay for me to ask for help. And here's how I said it to myself, even a little more detailed than what I shared with you about Pamela's story. What I said to myself was, I choose to believe that it might be possible, that it might be okay for me to ask for help. That was a teeny, tiny baby step. But I'll tell you, as soon as I said that, my eyes were closed, I was crying. I said that to myself. I felt this wave of relief come over my body. It was so amazing. And I cried a lot. I poured out a lot of tears that had been driven, I think, by not allowing people to help me for many, many years. As I kept practicing that, I noticed it was easier for me to say yes when someone offered to help me. I felt less irritated when somebody else asked for help, whereas before I would criticize them. Why? Because I had been criticizing myself. So if you find yourself feeling plagued by self-talk that feels bad, that tears you down or drains your energy, try this exercise. If you'd like some deeper support one-on-one, click the link in the show notes to explore my executive coaching program. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Drama-Free Teams. Whether the drama is internal to us or between us and other people, it can be resolved so much more quickly than what we might think. In the next episode, we'll tackle the drama that happens when a peer is promoted into a leadership role, and then they're asked to implement big changes, and their colleagues do not like it. How do you support that leader so that they don't feel thrown to the wolves? And how do you support the team so they don't feel betrayed by their former peer? There's a lot of drama that can be stirred up there, but if it's managed well, and if you support that leader thoughtfully, the change can be very smooth and the team can be high-performing very quickly. Until then, I'm Dr. Annie Campanile, reminding you that thriving in leadership is possible and you don't have to do it alone. See you next time.